everyone, and welcome to the American Bogan Hour. Well, as we saw earlier, Mr. Bancroft is not able to stream today, and it looks like moving forward, he won't be able to stream on his Monday and Tuesday, which is the US Sunday and Monday. So I decided to pick up the slack, don my drop bear helmet, and see if we couldn't put together a little show on the fly. Rob is asking if I'm going solo. I am solo, Rob, but if you would like the link, I'd be happy to send it. That goes for anybody else out there. Cheers, chat. Little American bourbon tonight. That's tasty. Thank you to everybody who showed up on almost zero notice. I'm scrolling through here. I know Osgreat Sage was the first one in. So cheers to you, my friend. And Rob, the replicator, was in here early. Who came in after that? John, number 3. And Eric Weathers. Good to see you. I borrow ideas, giving Rob some sage advice. Put your helmet on, Rob. It's going to be a bumpy ride. That's right. We're doing it live. Got nothing planned. Got a few vague ideas. I figured I'd just turn on the camera, see who showed up, and we could go from there. Matt Fowler's in the house. Yeah. I normally don't get to broadcast on this channel at night, but there was an open window and my wife was able to take care of the kids. We're on a bit of a different schedule right now because it's summer vacation for us. I know down under it's probably early winter, but here in the States it's early summer. And so I'm sure all the parents out there can relate. We're trying to keep our kids busy with activities, but not go too far outside of the normal routine during the school year, because if we do that, then it just gets really difficult to try and get back on to the normal routine when school starts up again. Let's see who else we got. Mo Biggs. Good to see you, Mo. Thanks for joining us. And Mo had said, why must everyone stream simultaneously? And I didn't realize that other people were streaming. I was under the impression that there was a shortage of entertainment this evening. So that's why I decided to fire up the camera. But, it's one of those situations, I guess. Either everybody's streaming or nobody's streaming. What did Mo say here? Skip is on Jason's show. Dean and Kimosabi's show is returning. And I think he said 656 is streaming. Yeah, I borrow ideas said 656 is also streaming. I should have gone through my feed and checked for anybody who was streaming already. That we could have just raided somebody's channel. Lord Ravner says, I blame Bancroft. He caused a disturbance in the force. It's true, he caused a disturbance, but I think his boss pushed him. So I blame his boss. But I'm sure there's enough blame to go around. We could probably blame both of them. Robert Shepard is here. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Jeremy Burtz, Jasper. We're getting a nice selection of the regulars to the Bancroft show. John asks if Mike's boss is Mel B. Well, that's his boss in life, but I don't think his boss at his place of employment, his day job, as it were, is, I don't think she would have the same name. Although it is a lady, I do know that. The Beampad is here. Good to see you. So, Rob, let me know if you want the link, and anybody else for that matter who who might be hearing this that I've streamed with before. D Geek Art, otherwise known as Elizabeth, the Outlier Comics graphic designer, says, my son wants to know if those are clout goggles. Tonight they are, Elizabeth, because apparently I've got the clout to start up a show with no real show planned. So I guess tonight they're the clout goggles. Rob says he can't join. He's got the kid. He's got dad duty, which is an honorable excuse. It's not even an excuse. It's a legitimate reason. So no worries, Rob. I was thinking that I would pull up some stuff related to Australia, and we could debate who's had the most significant, which Australian export has had the most significant impact on global society. The choices so far are Steve Irwin, Paul Hogan, otherwise known as Crocodile Dundee, and Yahoo Serious. But I'm open to suggestions. Like I said, this is just a spur of the moment show. Simonon7, hola mi amigo. And he says, are you Joe, are you cheating on Bancroft? No, he has to work in the office today. He wasn't able to come home and do his show. And I found out maybe 20 minutes before showtime, maybe 30 minutes. And so I decided to just jump in and do an impromptu stream. Oh, Mo says he got Fragajune ARO in the mail today. Nice. Who was it? Dan that drew that? Mo, I haven't been in on the Fragajune festivities, so I'm not sure if it's Frega who sends out the sketches or if there's some kind of vote, and then whichever sketch gets voted on as the best, that gets mailed out. So I'll look for your answer. Rob the Replicator confirmed my suspicion that Australia isn't real. There's times where I wonder if Australia and the Bancroft Bogan Hour is all really just an extended dream. John says, is Florida... Wait, what was it? The chat jumped on me. Is Australia the Florida of the world? New Zealanders might say yes. Aussies might say it's New Zealand. Jaro, good afternoon. For me, it's evening, but I hope you're having a pleasant afternoon today. Oh, Matt Fowler's suggestion is Hugh Jackman. That's a good one. He might have had slightly more impact on global society than Yahoo Serious. Okay, cool. Mo says it was ARO, AR-15 Orangutan. This was one that was drawn by Dan Frega. And then, so I guess it's, there's a vote on what to draw, and then whoever suggests the topic or the subject, and if that gets the winning vote, then that person receives the sketch from Frega. Is that how it works? There was another. Yeah, okay. That's what I hate it when the chat jumps. Not that you guys are doing it. It's all StreamYard's fault. But Mo Big says, yeah, Frega drew it. That's cool, man. Glad you got your sketch. And Rob the Replicator says he's less than 50 subs away from wearing a helmet on stream. Right on. Everyone go subscribe to the Replicator. And let's see Rob in his safety helmet. We can't have him crashing into walls or doorways or his camera. And Mo says he has Jose Garcia, D-Wag, and Lord Crackhead to thank. They suggested ARO for that night's Fragajune, and Lord Crackhead actually won it, but then told Dan to give it to me. Oh, right on. It was a team effort. Eric, that's an excellent suggestion. AC/DC. I can't argue with that. When they hit the scene, the whole world was thunderstruck. The Beampad suggests Captain Kangaroo, and Rob comes back with Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. I'm not familiar with Skippy. I know that Captain Kangaroo was big in the States. I don't know what sort of impact he had on the rest of the world, though. I'm happy to be enlightened if anybody has the answer for that one. Rob says if this was his stream, he'd be out of topics and the show would have ended by now. Simonon asks, what kind of helmet does Rob wear? Is it Prussian? And Eric Weather says the helmet is for the safety of the chat. That's a good point. What about welcome to the show? Good to see you. Thanks for joining. John asks, who sang 1,000 Miles? Weren't they Aussie? Was that the Pretender? No, not the Pretenders. Was it the Pretenders? The I could walk 1,000 miles and I could walk 1,000 more to be the man who walked 1,000 miles. Something, something at your door. Maybe to collapse and die at your door. I forget. It's been so many years since I heard that song. Oh, the Beampad says the captain was a fake Bogan. Well, I'm not sure that we could. Not sure that we could qualify Captain Kangaroo then if he's a fake Bogan. Perth Comics says, "Oi, the Proclaimers." Thank you, Oz, and Lord Ravener, and D Geek Art. The Proclaimers, and they're Scottish, not Aussies. Somebody said, oh yeah, Robert Shepard says they were a one-hit wonder. That was a fun song back in the day. Can't remember what year it was released. I don't know if I was in high school or in college, but it was fun for a hot minute. Black Rose, welcome to the show. Good to see ya. Let's take a look at. I guess the Proclaimers wouldn't qualify. If Captain Kangaroo doesn't qualify because he's American, then I don't think we can qualify the Proclaimers because they're Scottish. John says, was the Beds Are Burning an Aussie band? Yeah, Midnight Oil. They are very Australian. And they were one of my favorite bands back in the late 80s, early 90s. I was an angry little lefty back then, so the Oils were my jam. Oh, Mo says that the 1,000 Miles song, they recorded it in the 80s, but it wasn't a hit here until it was in that movie, Benny and June. Yeah. That was Johnny Depp and what was the blonde actress's name? She was really cute in that movie too. She was cute anyway, but she was really good in that. Mary something. I think she's one of those 3 named actresses. Let's see. Who can we get? Let's get another window going here. And then maybe we'll do a share screen. We got, see what Midnight Oil is up to. Probably nothing. Oh, I take it back. MidnightOil.com. And Midnight Oil win Reader's Choice Award at 2021 Rolling Stone Awards. Okay, well, this is half of something and half of nothing. Rolling Stone used to actually be cool once upon a time, and then they decided to write more about political stuff than music. So this is a big nothing burger as far as it being a Rolling Stone award, but it was a Reader's Choice Award, and I always like seeing readers or uh, fans or customers in some other sense of whoever's winning the award. I like seeing them choosing it as opposed to some panel of yahoos who have probably been bribed with free stuff anyway. Let's see what you guys are saying. Oh yeah, Mary Stuart Masterson. Thank you, Mo. She was the actress in Benny and June. Yeah, John, three names like presidential assassins. Although I hope Mary Stuart Masterson doesn't have any nefarious schemes and scams with regard to America's leaders. Replicator Rob says he became a politician. Yeah, Peter, what was his name? I used to have all those guys, all the bands, all the members. I used to be able to sing every word of every song back in the day. Now I can't remember their names, let alone the lyrics to any of the songs. Peter Garrett, Rob says. The Makarata Project, or Makarata, is probably closer to how they would say. Midnight Oil to headline rescheduled Blues Fest 2021 this October. What would Midnight Oil be doing at a blues fest? Unless it's one of those festivals that is not what they advertise it to be. Midnight Oil, Friday, October 1st. Paul Kelly, Saturday. Tash Sultana, Saturday. And Jimmy Barnes, Sunday. Well, I know who Midnight Oil are. I think I might have heard of Paul Kelly. I don't know the other two. So you Aussies will have to tell me if they're any good. Let's share the screen. We can take a look at this. You can let me know if any of these bands or any of these singers are any good. Simonon 7 says Mary Stuart Masterson was so cute on Some Kind of Wonderful, and chances are I agree. Yes, Beampad. Chris Hemsworth is Australian. I think all of his brothers are as well. I think that's probably a safe bet. Phil from Zaid Comics, welcome. Hey, I'm streaming solo tonight. I offered to bring on Rob Arnold, but he's busy with dad duty, taking care of his kid. So if you want the link, Phil, let me know. I'll send it to you. Otherwise, I'm just doing an improv stream here. We're about to take a look at some Australian music. Let's see. Okay, share screen. There's no audio on this. There we go. Ocean Alley. So these are our headliners. Midnight Oil Friday, Paul Kelly Saturday. This is all October 1st through 4th. Tash Sultana Saturday, Jimmy Barnes Sunday. Oh, Rob wants me to tell you guys how baby koalas eat. Well, it's kind of like, well, it's even more disgusting than how baby birds eat, I think. The mom chews up the eucalyptus leaves and then poops it out, and then the baby koala eats the mom's poop. Now you know. Okay, who do we have here on the bill? Ocean Alley, never heard of them. Ziggy, Alberts, Cat Empire. That sounds disturbing. Mark Seymour and the Undertow. Kate Seberano. Kelsey Chambers. The Waifs. I think I've heard of the Waifs. Don't know their music, though. The Church. John Stevens. Ian Moss. The Living End. The Angels. Don't know any of them. Beampad says, eucalyptus poop. Simonon7 says, I'm more concerned about the fact that they seem to poop thunderbuns. Poopalyptus. Robert Shepard says, my dog would eat like that. I had a dog that would eat poop. I could never figure it out. I tried for years trying to get him to stop, trying to figure out what was causing him to do it. And at the end of the day, the vet consensus seems to be some dogs do, some dogs don't. Some dogs you can train to stop eating their own poop, and some dogs you can't. So I had one smart dog and one dumb dog several years ago. We got the smart dog first, and she needed company, so we got another one. We didn't know he was so dumb. And they were good buddies, but the dumb one was a poop eater and never could quite live that down. Luis Ledesma, welcome to the show. Good to see you. So Rob says on this bill over here of all these bands and musicians that the Living End is the only one he knows so far. Mo remembers the Living End. The Living End? What's the next group here? Ross Wilson and the Peaceniks. Russell Morris. Troy Cassar-Daly. Briggs. Tex Perkins, the Man in Black. I hope he's a Johnny Cash cover artist. If he's not, he's got some splaining to do, because the Johnny Cash is the only Man in Black I recognize. Frenzel Rom? Frenzel Room? Rome? Not familiar with that one either. Oh, Heath Ledger. That's a good suggestion for most significant Australian export. Good one, John. We'll have to add that to the list. Yeah, Paul Hogan we got earlier. Nicole Kidman. Ozzy. Cate Blanchett. Now, I have heard that she grew up in Australia but was not born Australian. Is that true? Or is she a true blue dinky dye Aussie gal? I need a ruling on that from the Aussies in the chat. Elle Macpherson, definitely a good pick, Rob, and definitely Australian. Lord Ravener says AC/DC. That's 2 for AC/DC. Eric Weathers chimed in on that earlier, and I agree they're definitely one of the biggest Aussie exports. Guy who played Longmire, don't know. I'm aware of the show, but never watched it. Silverchair, not even going to consider it. Olivia Newton-John, yeah, she had her day. John Paul Jones, good one. Mo having a little fun with Aussie slang. Akadaka for sure. That would be... So would it be Akadaka, Kakadaka for AC/DC? Oh, Rob says we can have Cate Blanchett. Is she a problem? Is she a problem child? Oh, Woodrow. The senior curry chef-in-chief of Fulton Land. He says, hail from the kitchen. I'm hard at work making the finest curry. Thank you, Woodrow. Your service to the kingdom is most appreciated. Cheers to you, sir. Luis says they can take back Margot Robbie. She kind of hit the wall already. Yeah, there was a time where I thought Margot Robbie was going to be something worth talking about, as the kids used to say. But she turned out to be kind of overrated, I think. Mel Gibson, of course, Replicator Rob. Some people might disagree. We might have to, if he is in the running, then I think we'd have to decide if we were going to consider Mel's entire body of work or a particular decade, particular couple decades maybe. Last 20 years haven't been too kind for Mel. Oh, Rob says nope, just Akadaka. All right. No Akadaka Kakadaka, just Akadaka. Roland, hey, what's going on? Good to see you. Thanks for joining the show. We're doing an American Bogan bonanza since our Bogan leader is working today and couldn't do a show. Mr. Bancroft is slaving away in his air-conditioned office, wearing his finest blouse, I'm sure, graphic designing his little heart out. Keith Urban, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to disqualify that. We need significant impact on global society. I think Keith Urban's biggest achievement has been marrying Nicole Kidman, hasn't it? I mean, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. I'm certainly open to being enlightened here. The Bee Gees, I definitely had their day. Mo here with a hot take. If Alice in Chains were whinier and less talented, they could have been Silverchair. Now, John is offering a trade, but Rob is denying it. He will not accept terms. John says, we will take Cate Blanchett if you will take Gwyneth Paltrow. And Rob, speaking on behalf of all Australians, says, no, I'll never take that trade. However, I will say, if we get at least 2 Aussies that would accept the trade, then we'll have to consider it. And John says Gibson was a bounce around. I know he was born in the U.S., but then raised in Australia, then came back to the U.S. But did he ever go back to Australia after that? After he got big in Hollywood? I don't know. Now here's another possibly controversial pick. Forgive me, guys. I'm very tired. Long day. Having a few little stumbles here, trying to put my consonants and vowels together. So Rob says Russell Crowe, and I understand why. However, wasn't he born in New Zealand and then raised in Australia? And if that's correct, then I would need to know, is he an Australian citizen or does he hold dual citizenship between New Zealand and Oz? And Lord Ravener, you're a man after my own heart. It says, it's all a contest for second. There was no purer soul than Steve Irwin. And I've definitely got Steve Irwin at the top of my list. I also threw out possible suggestions, Paul Hogan, a.k.a. Crocodile Dundee, and, of course, the great Yahoo Serious. Eric Bana, another good suggestion from John. He was doing a lot from the late 90s through the late 2000s, but I'm not so sure how much he's done the last decade or so. You guys will have to fill me in there. And Rob's agreeing with Steve Irwin or AC/DC. And D-Geek Art says Tim Tams are good. They come out of Australia. I've got it on good authority that they're good. But I haven't had any myself, so I have to take your guys' word for it. And Rob says Tim Tams are a good call. Simon7 says In Excess and Nick Cave. I think those are good suggestions. The Beanpad says Yahoo serious? It's like he's asking if I'm serious. Not really. I thought Young Einstein was funny when I was a teenager and I saw it, but that's the only thing I've ever seen him in. I think his claim to fame in that movie was he invented bubbles for beverages. Simon7 says, "How about the guy that snagged the Jesse's Girl song?" Oh, yeah, I can't remember who that was. You guys would have to fill me in on what else he's done. Okay, so Rob says they claim everybody that's at least 1/10 Australian. So Russell Crowe would qualify then. Rob is disqualifying Yahoo Serious. Wouldn't even be allowed on the list. My goodness. So Rick Springfield is the one that sang Jesse's Girl. I don't know if he's done anything else. Well, I mean, he's done other stuff. He's sung other stuff, but I don't know if it's had as much of an impact. Wheelie Bin, welcome to the show. He suggests Julian Assange. And I think we got a second from the crowd. Yeah, Ja Rowe said, good call on Assange. So we've got, yeah, Hugh Jackman was suggested earlier. I think that's a good one. Mo saying Rick Springfield covered Sammy Hagar's "I've Done Everything for You." Yeah, I'm not sure if that's enough to get him on the list. Lord Ravener says Kylie Minogue was hot for a second. True. I think the 90s was her heyday. Agent Cub says, what about Josh Smith? I'm not sure who that is. Simonon7 says, Rick Springfield had a Baywatch kind of show in the mid-90s and did some movies. All right. It's respectable. So let's get something going here. Let's start a list. We've got some suggestions we can work with. And let's see if we can get a ballot put together. Yeah, Rob's got a good suggestion, a straw poll. I was thinking the same thing, but I think I want to get some kind of consensus on who should be on the poll, and then we'll run it. Let's see. Agent Cub says, Josh Smith was my friend in school. Plus, I have no idea what's going on. Well, welcome to the show. Since Mike Bancroft is at work, and he normally does the show from 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern, 8 to 9 p.m. Pacific. But he let us know that he wasn't able to do that anymore on his Monday and Tuesday, which is in the U.S., Sunday and Monday. And I found out shortly before showtime, and then I had to take care of some stuff for the family, and then decided to go ahead and fire up a show. So we were trying to figure out what Australia's greatest exports were based on the impact they've had on global society. And we've pretty much decided they're either actors, actresses, musicians, or somehow related. Roland says, what about Peter Jackson? And Rob says, isn't he Kiwi? And that is correct. He is a Kiwi. So let's see. I think a big one that many people agreed on was AC/DC, so they're on the list. Russell Crowe. Rob says that Australia claims him, even though he was born a Kiwi. So we'll put him on there. We all know who he is. Dame Edna, is she Australian? I thought that was a an English character, but if I'm wrong, uh, feel free to educate me. Men at Work. They were big in the 80s. Have they done anything since then? Mel Gibson has been mentioned several times, so he's going on the list. Mo says, I think we're dancing around the most obvious answer. Cletus Boganton. Well, I'll put Cletus in as a maybe. Since he had such a profound impact on the Bancroft show. Can't rule him out, even if no one else has any idea who he is. But, in the time since that show, he may have been rocking the world for all I know. I've had my head down making comics. D Geek is educating me. She says that John Barry Humphries is an Australian actor, artist, author, comedian, and satirist. He's best known for writing and playing his onstage and television alter egos Dame Edna. Okay. So, does anybody besides me and D Geek Arc know who Dame Edna is? If so, I'll put him on the list. And we're also putting, along with AC/DC, Steve Irwin also goes at the top of the list. That was something we decided on earlier in the show. Oh, look at that. Mo says, recently Cletus had a Sandwich Saturday winning sandwich named after him. Well, he is definitely on the maybe. Mr. Bancroft reporting in from the rock quarry where he's slaving away, working for the man, or the woman, as the case may be, says he knows who Dame Edna is. And Mo Big says, I know who Dame Edna is, but I'd vote not on the list. Okay. Well, do we have a tie-breaking vote for Dame Edna? Yay or nay? We also had several votes for Hugh Jackman, so he goes on the list as the 6'3" Wolverine. Oh, we've got 1 yes for Edna as an honorable mention and 2 no's for Edna. I'm afraid Edna does not make the cut. There's another one. We've got a no, nay, and who's Dame Edna. So I'm sorry, Elizabeth and Jack, but Dame Edna does not make the cut. So right now, I've got Steve Irwin, AC/DC, Russell Crowe, Mel Gibson, Hugh Jackman. Are there any strong feelings about some of the ladies earlier mentioned kicking one of those guys off the list, like Elle Macpherson, Nicole Kidman, Cate Blanchett? I don't think anybody was too thrilled with Margot Robbie making the list. Oh, Tim Tams. Thank you, Rob, for the reminder. Tim Tams got several approving comments, so we'll put Tim Tams on the list. For anybody who doesn't know what those are, they're an Australian cookie. Mike Bancroft says no Errol Flynn. And Robert Shepard asks, what are we doing? We're trying to determine once and for all, which means for the rest of the evening on this show, what the greatest Australian exports in human history are. And so we are considering pretty much anything at this point, from bands to actors to wildlife enthusiasts to cookies. So Mike asked no Errol Flynn. Simonon says Errol Flynn is Australian. I thought he was English, but I could be wrong. Mike, as an Australian, would probably know better than me. Welcome Nefarious to the show. Welcome Eric Canetti to the show. Good you guys could join. Now, Roland, this is a controversial pick. And as an honorary part-time Australian, I can tell you that Aussies are divided as to the greatness or the horrific, possibly all-time horrific nature of Vegemite. So it really depends on you ask. Now, I will put it on the list if we get enough votes yay for Vegemite, but if we have more nays than yays, then Vegemite does not make the list. Luis says, I don't even know who that is. Holden Ute? I don't know who that is. The Mad Max series. There was one suggestion earlier for the Mad Max films. So now we've got two pretty enthusiastic votes for the Mad Max films. Rob says McPherson has to be on the list, one of the biggest models of all time. Do we have a second on that? Because I would not argue Elle Macpherson was a smoke show. And one of the highest paid models at one time, if I remember correctly. And Mike says Errol Flynn is Aussie. All right, I'm impressed. Oh, Holden Ute is a car. Well, since I've never heard of it, and I don't know. Okay, Luis says it's a car truck like the El Camino. Well, maybe if it was on par with Ford or Chevy or Toyota or Honda, we could put it on there. Otherwise, I'm not sure it's quite taken the world by storm. Now, Mo would go for the iconic Fairy Bread. Having a soft spot in my heart for Fairy Bread, as I do, would be tempted to put it on the list. But I have to think what sort of impact has the rest of the world had by these items, by these suggestions. I just don't know if Fairy Bread has caught on outside of the borders of Australia. Okay, we've got multiple votes now for Elle Macpherson, also known as the Body. So she's going on the list. And does Elle Macpherson, aka the Body, does she kick off one of the guys? She doesn't kick off Steve Irwin. Does she kick off Russell Crowe, Mel Gibson, or Hugh Jackman? Or do they all stay on the list? So you guys let me know. Do we kick one of the blokes? Or do we just add Elle on with them? Mo Biggs is asking if Vegemite has caught on. Not to my knowledge. And I try to stay up to date on all trends Australian. Not that I actually achieve that goal, but I do make a concerted effort. We might have controversy here in the chat. Mo says kick Crowe, and Michael Bancroft says no one kicks Russell Crowe. But then Ja Rowe comes back with saying that Elle Macpherson kicks off Russell Crowe. So I'm going to have a drink of my bourbon while you guys duke it out. Simonon is saying kick Jackman or Crowe. Oh, Michael says, so he says no one kicks Russell Crowe, but then he acknowledged even though he's a Kiwi. Okay, we've got enough votes here to kick Hugh Jackman. We got 1, 2, okay, yep, Hugh Jackman is off. Let me see. if I can get this updated, and then we'll share the list, because I think we're... Yep, rip Hugh Jackman. You were good in Les Mis. Some people might even think you were good in Real Steel. As Robert Shepard says, we barely knew you. So Hugh Jackman is gone, and L, quote, the body, unquote, McPherson is on the list. All right. Ladies represent. And Michael Bancroft says Wi-Fi is our biggest tech export. That is a huge, huge impact on global society. I say Wi-Fi has to go on the list. I didn't know, or I had forgotten actually, that was invented in Australia. Is anybody against adding Wi-Fi to the list? Because I think that has had enormous influence in the world. Although the fact that nobody except Australians knows that it was invented in Australia. You guys in the chat, let me know. Does Wi-Fi make the list? And in the meantime, I'll get this up on the screen and we can take a look at it together. Oh, I guess I was still sharing the old one, so we'll get rid of that. We'll bring up the list, and then let's make these words bigger for people who are looking at this on their phones. How's that? Let's see what you guys are saying. Antoine Dennison, welcome to the show. Glad you found us. We are trying to figure out Australia's greatest exports, and the criteria we're using to judge is the impact they've had on the rest of the world. Now, Rob says you can't do inventions, that's boring. Simonon7 says he thought Wi-Fi was Israel. Robert Shepard says you wouldn't brag about 6G or 5G, which technically is different than Wi-Fi, though they are related. The Beampad says, no wonder my Wi-Fi always drops. Ooh, sick burn, Aussies. Luis Ledesma, AC/DC invented bagpipe rock. Yep, AC/DC is definitely on the list. Slave One says, is Mel Gibson considered Australian? And that we did talk about that earlier, because he was born in New York, grew up in Australia, started acting in Australia, but then really made it big as an actor in the U.S. And as far as I know, pretty much stayed in the U.S. And Rob the Replicator said that if somebody is even 1/10 Australian, then Australia claims them. So that pretty much answered it for me. Mo Biggs with a very pertinent, cutting yet pertinent question. If Aussies invented Wi-Fi, how come their internet always sucks? I don't know, other than it's government run, government maintained, from what I've been told. Yeah, Antoine Dennison, Crocodile Dundee is Australia's greatest contribution to humanity. I did lobby for Paul Hogan, aka Crocodile Dundee, to be on this list, but I was outvoted. Slave One says the Bloomin' Onion should be on there. I would love to add the Bloomin' Onion. As a former connoisseur of it, when I was eating deep fried foods, I'd be happy to add it on there. But I can't in good conscience do that because it was created by Americans, as far as I know. Oh, and Michael Bancroft coming back at Mo with the internet question. If they invented Wi-Fi, why does their internet suck? And Mike says, because the Wi-Fi has to eventually go through old copper wires. Simon7 says, can we give an honorable mention to a dingo ate my baby? I'd be happy to put that on there. In quotes. Absolutely. Apparently, the internet quality in Oz is a sensitive subject. The replicator, Rob Arnold, says, don't start on an Aussie on why the internet sucks. And Mo making a spirited defense for his pick says the only thing more Aussie than the Bloomin' Onion is Cletus Boganton himself. Now, John is saying, wait, did we consider the emus? And for those who may not know, there was the Great Emu War. I forget which year it occurred, where essentially a wild, enormously large pack of emus fought the Australian army to a stalemate. And the Aussies basically said, we've had enough of this. And they went home, and the emus declared victory. And New Zealanders have been letting them hear it ever since. Now, Slave Juan says, what about rugby? To which I ask, did Australians invent rugby? I know that they generally field excellent rugby teams, but I don't know which country it originated in. So if we've got a ruling on whether or not Aussies invented the game, then we can consider adding it. Lord Ravener says, this kills his heart, but he thinks Rob is right with AC/DC. Steve and L were supreme of a certain time. Oh, Aussies might say that Steve Irwin is timeless. I would agree with you on Elle Macpherson. Like I said earlier, I thought she was a smoke show, but of a certain time, for sure. Mo Big says the boomerang. I'd be happy to put it on if I saw evidence of it sweeping, the world stage. I just haven't seen it. Luis Ledesma, I will not be adding kangaroo orgies to the list. Thank you very much. As far as I know, that is a particularly Australian phenomenon. Osgreat Sage says Skippy the bush kangaroo is a bigger star than all of them. Maybe in Australia. I would certainly defer to you guys on that, but I just haven't seen Skippy the bush kangaroo anywhere else. Ned Kelly. I've heard of Ned Kelly. I even know who Ned Kelly is, being an honorary part-time Australian, but I'd be shocked if even 1% of people outside of Australia knew about Ned. Arisaga, welcome to the show. Good to see you, Brian. Antoine says Men at Work. That was suggested earlier, but I think we came to a consensus that no music group had a bigger impact than AC/DC. So as of yet, AC/DC is the reigning champion as far as musicians go for our list. Oh my goodness. Let's see what Mr. Bancroft says. I think I'm going to need a drink for this one. Mr. Bancroft says, Charlie Bell, the Australian who started his career as a teenager serving fries in Sydney, became the head of the McDonald's global empire changing the restaurant forever. Well, I have heard you say that he existed on a previous show. I don't know how he changed the restaurant forever. And I don't know what changes he made, what sort of impact they had on the rest of human society. So if you can strengthen your case and there's support from the chat, I'll add him to the list. Oh, Rob is still going on about the internet. He was right. Don't get Nazi started about their internet. He says we spent like $80 billion on our new internet just to have it outdated before they finished installing it. For some reason, that reminds me of the Great Emu War and how that turned out. Simon 7 says Skippy was big on Mexico Joe. I'm guessing that's Skippy the bush kangaroo. Yeah, Crocodile Dundee, Aerith Saga. Antoine and I both vote for Crocodile Dundee, but we got outvoted a couple of times, so that's the only reason why he's not on the list. Billy Basco coming in strong for Mad Max, saying they're greater than Tim Tams, in his opinion. I would have to say that they've had a greater impact on U.S. culture than Tim Tams. I don't know about the rest of the globe, but if we can get a ruling on that from the chat, Mad Max or Tim Tams, it wouldn't bother me at all to take Tim Tams off and put Mad Max in. And that would actually strengthen Mel's case as well. And that might kick Russell Crowe off the list. We might be narrowing our list down. I think if we could get down to... you guys tell me, for the straw poll, do you want 3 choices or do you want 5? Antoine's saying there was a movie, so at least a few people know Ned Kelly. All right. Looks like we had a question about the McDonald's guy. Oh, okay. So Mo was saying, so it's the guy's fault for making the company the way it is. And he said, no, he just modernized the company. I think I'd have to go with Ray Kroc being more fundamental to McDonald's being the way that it is. Mo, we need hundreds and thousands of choices. Okay, so let's see what you guys are saying. Charlie Bell invented the McBeetroot. Welcome, Danger Vanessa. Glad you could join us. Okay, so let's see what you guys are saying about the poll. Rob apparently is having a difficult time playing nice with Michael Bancroft. What else is new? Mo Biggs met Paul Hogan twice as a kid. Lucky. Vanessa says the Aussies can keep Ruby Rose. I agree. Okay, so on the choices for the poll, we've got 5, 4, 5, 5, 5. Okay, the 5s have it. Ryan Wynn wants 420 choices, or maybe he just wants 420. Welcome, Ryan. Good to see you, my friend. Don Bradman statistically was the greatest ever professional sportsman. Okay, so anytime I hear someone say, well, statistically they were the greatest ever, then that makes me think that they're not really considered the greatest ever. Okay, so we've got enough fives. Yeah, Vanessa, I tried. She says, so I'm getting a feeling that Joe needs a Joe. I tried to get a co-host on here, but by virtue of the fact that there was no advance notice, I'm having a hard time getting someone in here. But if anybody would like to volunteer, I certainly am willing to bring on an instant co-host. So let's see. It looks like we're going to do 5 spots on our poll. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Did we ever get a ruling on if the Mad Max films are greater on their impact on the world than Tim Tams? I would say yes, but I'm going to need a ruling from the chat on this one. Mobig says, when people refer to Rob as an anchor on a stream, they aren't comparing him to a newscaster. Okay, so we've got a vote for Mad Max outdoing Tim Tams. Another vote. Roland is saying he could possibly co-host. Well, if he could possibly co-host, then I would say, do you have a camera and mic working? You know is definitely working. And have you live streamed before? And if you can get back to me on that, then we'll resume that topic in just a minute. Okay, we're getting lots and lots of yeses for Mad Max being better than Tim Tams. And Oz is saying Errol Flynn was more famous than Russell Crowe the Kiwi. Okay, we've seen enough yeses from the chat. The Tim Tams are gone. Mad Max is on. Mo Big says, I say we give Roland a try and kick him if he sucks. Short, sweet, to the point. Appreciate that. Okay, Roland's saying, yes, I do, and I've streamed before. All right, Roland. Well, batter up. Let's see. Danger Vanessa says, are we interviewing people? If so, how many outlandish outfits do you have in your closet? Well, I'm going to give Roland the option of either appearing on camera or behind an avatar, and we'll see what he turns up with. So let's go to Twitter and get Roland a link. And all right, Arisaga says, I literally just bought 15 different glasses for shows. That's what I like to hear. Okay, Roland, if you are on Twitter with some crazy handle, I'll need to know. No, that didn't work. Oh, you don't have an active Twitter. Okay. Do you have an email address that you're comfortable typing into the chat? Because I could send it to you that way. Oh, John is asking, doesn't Mel B owe you a co-host? I don't know if she owes me a co-hosting gig. I'd certainly be happy to have her apply as a co-host. I'd certainly send her the link. Mo says, don't be nervous, Roland. This is only the biggest opportunity of your life. Lord Ravener backs it up, saying, yes, Roland, I'm in no mood for monkey shines. Okay. I thought so, Roland. I thought so. I just wanted to make sure. He says we've emailed before. There was a dim memory nagging the back of my mind. I'm glad you confirmed it for me. So, if you guys will excuse me for a moment, I'm going to call up my email and get rolling the link. And let's see. Sorry for the dead air, guys. Had some music playing. There we go. There is Roland. Get the address. And compose a new email. And Roland, I'm going to call this one-time show link. That's not any sort of comment against your broadcasting ability. It's just that when I do a show, I use a link one time and then that's it. Let's check in on the chat while I'm boomering around. Mo is tough but fair. I agree. Okay, there's the StreamYard link. And put it in the email, send it off. Okay, Roland, you should see it pop up in your email any minute. So Rob has a good question. Are Mel Gibson and Mad Max kind of the same? I think that Mad Max, the film franchise, not counting Furiosa guest starring Mad Max, but the original film trilogy, I say that bolsters Mel Gibson's spot. But there was enough people who wanted it separate that I put it on there. I heard a guest ring the doorbell. Welcome, Roland.
Hello there, mate.
How's it going?
I'm doing great, just tell you what.
Glad to have you on the show.
Oh, it's lovely to be here up at 1 in the morning. I'll tell you, it's a lovely outlet. It's fine. I don't get much sleep this week anyway, so I've been oversleeping, if anything.
Well, so what's your take on the list so far?
Um, Believe it or not, I'm actually pretty young, so I didn't have a lot of exposure to. Oh, there it goes. To Australian culture, um,
Mm-hmm.
outside of like actors or motion pictures, like like Australia with a huge happening in it and things like that.
Okay. And do you mind if I ask where you're from?
Oh, I'm from the land of cheeseburgers and freedom.
Which is
Good old US of A, I'll tell you what.
okay. All right. Um, so you've got some cheers coming from the chat. Congratulations.
All right, all right. Let's see what this is all about.
So chat, where are we going on the Mad Max and Mel Gibson debate? Do, does one outrank the other? Are they more?
I'd say so.
Roland? Would you say that it's Mel or it's Mad Max?
So the thing is, Mel is an American actor who can do an English and Australian accent rather well. It's just about doing accents like me. I'm not really English, but I can do a Scottish accent rather well. So do I count as a Scotsman? Or do my characters that I portray are Scottish, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I think the whole Mad Max thing supersedes him because beyond Mad Max, what does Mel Gibson have for his Australian persona? I mean, the only other thing I know where he does a funny accent is what is it, Braveheart?
Braveheart, The Patriot. Um, Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, like
So
the
so
half of
you've
the first
got
one.
what's that?
Like the first half of the first one, he's got a weird Australian American accent.
In which film?
The first half of Lethal Weapon.
Oh, first half of Lethal Weapon. Yeah, but he gets better as the films go on, right?
Well, maintaining his American accent, yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Mo says, Joe, the topic seems unimportant until we can get Roland out of that well he's trapped in. Is there anything you can do to improve your echo, Roland?
No clue. I'm using a mic that comes from the headset I'm using.
Okay. Replicator Rob says Roland has to go. Sorry, Roland. Now, Osgreat Sage says kick Bancroft. Oz, I'd love to accommodate your request, but unfortunately, Bancroft is not on this show. That's the whole reason why I fired up the stream. Looks like Roland dropped out. Um, Robert is saying he couldn't understand Roland. Oh, here we go.
I'm
You there,
back.
Roland?
I'm back. This might not be much better, but this is the mic from my laptop. How's this?
Um, it's a little bit better from this end. Chat, can you? What do you guys say? Can you understand Roland?
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
John saying is slightly better. Uh, Welcome, Dean, otherwise known as Comics Mate. He says, "What is this madness? Why aren't you sleeping, Joe?" Well, Mike Bancroft wasn't able to do the show today, and so I had to take care of a few family things, and then I decided to start up a stream and see if we couldn't do something for the good of human society. So we are trying to decide on what are the best exports that Australia has given to the rest of the world. And we're trying to narrow this down to 5. And if we can do that, we'll run a straw poll, and then the top 3 votes will be the winners.
I seriously do think that Mad Max does supersede Mel Gibson, though. I still attest to that.
Mo Biggs is confident that you, Roland, are in fact Noah Mactudis of NTM Comics. Is that true?
No idea who that is.
Okay. The Beanpad would like to know if you're using Australian Wi-Fi.
That's a possibility. Given that I'm using a Scos accent.
Okay.
It's a 12-year-old microphone on a 12-year-old laptop, so the reception's not great, and I guess there's a really bad echo with the built-in microphone on the headset I was using.
Okay. So yeah, Dean, there's been some controversy tonight about that fact, Russell Crowe being a New Zealander. Rob and Mike claim him for Australia. If you want to settle this by a fist fight, I won't stop you guys. There's an ocean between us, so you guys will have to figure that out amongst yourselves. Eric McIntyre is saying that Australia provided kangaroo leather to the world, possibly their greatest contribution. And Mike is now saying, to be fair, Mel Gibson isn't Australian either. You know, there's real controversy here as to whether or not Mel is Aussie or not, and also whether Russell is Aussie or not. So I'm wondering if we should just take them both off the list. We know Mad Max is an Aussie for sure.
Mel definitely doesn't count. Because the thing is, we're talking about Mad Max. We're talking about Mad Max.
Okay, Oz is saying.
I wanted to test the audio, and it does sound like I'm in a well, but
yeah, I think the echo is just a little too much, Roland. I appreciate you giving it the old college try, but I've seen a lot more people in the chat saying they can't understand you. But I've seen a lot more people in the chat saying they can't understand you. Now we've got a really bad echo.
yeah, all right then.
All right, so I'm gonna give you the boot, but I do appreciate you coming on. And maybe if we can get the echo figured out, we can try it again sometime.
Yeah, I'll gladly take the boot to the head.
All right, have a good one, Roland.
All right.
All right. So yeah, you guys were hearing that echo too. Well, like I said to Roland, I do appreciate him coming on and giving it a shot. We just need to have some better audio next time. Okay, so back to the list. We're going to get rid of Mel. Too controversial. Not enough consensus. And same with Russell. So that has got us to 4. And there has been several Aussies have repeatedly said that Errol Flynn should be on the list. So I'm going to put him on. I don't think he's going to make the cut, but as an honorary part-time Aussie, I have to honor the request of my Aussie brethren. I'll put him on the list. And then that gives us 5, which means we're ready for a straw poll. And Boob Dan wants to know why no divinals on this list. Because you were the first one to suggest them, Dan. Let's see here. Poida. Well, he's known in Australia, but I don't think he's made much of an impact on the rest of the world outside of the Bancroft show. That was quite a few months ago that we saw old Poida. Dean is asking about Dame Edna. Considered, but ultimately did not make the list. So I'm going to bring up strawpoll.com and we will get this vote underway. Let's see here. Strawpoll.com. We will call this best, no, greatest Australian exports. And let me just make sure I get the list correct. Oh, Simonon's saying we can do polls on chat now. What sort of tech wizardry is this? Let's bring up the YouTube chat. We'll mute YouTube now that I've opened it up. Let's get the live chat going. YouTube is loading up the chat window. Oh, there it is. Create a poll. That is a yes, no. Okay. I can add fields, it looks like. So let's call this Australia's greatest exports. And then let's go back to our list. We don't want to leave anybody off. Steve Irwin. AC/DC. I think that's all it's going to let me do. You can give it a title. Then there's yes or no. And then you can add, it looks like 2 fields. So let's go back to the straw poll then. Antoine with the VB reference. You can get it on a poll. You can get it in a hole or up a pole. Okay, let's get the straw poll going because I appreciate the suggestion, Simonon, but you're right. The YouTube interface wasn't going to let me add enough fields for us to run our poll in the chat. If we were choosing between 2, then I think it would have worked. And yes, no polls looks like it's what they designed it for. Okay, straw poll. Australia's greatest exports. And I hope it's going to let me add more. Right now it's only got 3. I wish Leroy was here doing work. He could let me know how to add fields on this poll. Steve Irwin, AC/DC. Oh, it looks like it adds them automatically. That's cool. L Body McPherson, Mad Max, Errol Flynn, and we will create the poll. Okay, got the link. And dropping it in the chat. And then going to YouTube. All right, so you guys have the link now. Feel free to vote. Vote once, vote twice, vote often. And then I'm going to check the results. And then I'll share screen so we can see what's what. Crazy Mad says he'll trade Joe Exotic to Oz for Eric Bana. I'd approve that trade. I don't know if the Aussies would. Okay, now let's stop the old screen share, get a new one going, and let's look at the results. Yeah, so far AC/DC, aka Akadaka, is clearly in the lead, but we're going to go for the top 3. So if we get some more votes in and the top 2 spots stay where they're at, then it looks like it's going to be a runoff between L the Body McPherson, Mad Max, and Errol Flynn. I'm going to refresh every 5 seconds or so. And we'll see. Oh, there we go. There's auto refresh. Thank you, Roland. Appreciate that. We got 19 total votes, 10 for AC/DC. They got my vote. 6 for Steve Irwin, and then 1 each for L, Mad Max, and Errol Flynn. And another vote for AC/DC. We might have to have a runoff poll with L, Mad Max, and Errol Flynn. Unless we can settle it in the chat. Welcome, Sumo Thori. Feel free to join in. Join in the poll. Make your vote count. Make your voice heard. Rock the vote, as the kids like to say. Only 1.5 hours late. Well, this is a substitute Bancroft Bogan bonanza, and we all know how late and gay he usually is. My compliments to Vanessa for coming up with the stuttering phrase. It's a personal favorite of mine, and I know many other people that are regular viewers of the show called The Chat on Saturdays on Leroy's channel. Get a kick out of hearing that. Now, Antoine is saying AC/DC was formed in Australia by Scotsmen, which is true. However, the topic is Australia's greatest exports, and since they were formed in Australia and created their music in Australia, and then Australia exported it to the world, they certainly qualify for this poll. Welcome, Good Stuff Comic Skater and Mrs. Good Stuff. Glad you could join us tonight. We're just trying to decide Australia's greatest exports to the rest of the world. We're pretty much settled on it being AC/DC and Steve Irwin. We're going to take the top three. And for a while there, it looked like we might have to have a runoff between Mad Max, Elle Macpherson, and Errol Flynn. But a few minutes ago, Mad Max surged ahead by one entire vote, leaving Elle Macpherson and Errol Flynn in his Australian dust. So we'll let that run for another minute or two. And then we'll call it. Roland is saying that DC are Aussies through and through. I thought there was at least a couple Scotsmen in there. I could be wrong. John says it's looking like a Mel B. Sandwich Saturday runaway poll. Oh, Harrisog is saying we could break the vote. Is this original AC/DC or the discography as a whole? I hadn't even thought about that. And if it was up to me, I would say the discography as a whole. I mean, I like original AC/DC better, but Mo Big says Bon Scott was born in Scotland, or was from Scotland, but he moved to Australia when he was 6 years old. And Michael Bancroft says every second person in Australia is from somewhere else. That's how we roll. That's how it is on the coasts of the U.S. West Coast, East Coast. It's very common. Osgreat Sage with a hot take. AC/DC isn't really Aussie. They just started in Aussie pubs. Well, if the pubs are in Australia, then didn't they start in Australia? And if they started in Australia and then became famous around the world, in addition to famous in Australia, then they are an export, in my opinion. Okay, I think it's time we call it. AC/DC, 12 votes. Steve Irwin, 8 votes. Mad Max, 2 votes. It has been decided and formally declared that Australia's greatest exports are AC/DC, Steve Irwin, and Mad Max. Well done, Australia. Well done. Well, chat, it's been real. I thank you all for joining me tonight. Thank you for helping to decide once and for all Australia's three greatest exports. Now that we've settled that question, tomorrow we can go to whatever it is Mr. Bancroft has for the show. I think that's about it. Mike says we forgot the Golden Gate time, but that's not an export, Mike. That's, as far as I can tell, I can't get it in the US. I don't know of any other country where I could get it from. So I think that's just local to Australia. Thank you, everyone, for joining the show. Had a lot of fun. Hope you did too. And I guess tomorrow night we'll see you on the regular Bat channel at the regular Bat time, Michael Bancroft channel, for Late Night with Comicsgate. So until then, take care and have yourself a Golden Gate time if you're living in Australia. Oh, Michael Bancroft says he'll be streaming later. So once he gets out of the rock quarry, he breaks free of his chains, then he'll put on a show. I'm sure I'll be asleep because it's starting to get a little late when you got to wake up at 6 a.m. and get the kids ready for summer camp. So enjoy the show, everybody who can make it later tonight on the Michael Bancroft channel. Otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow night for Late Night with Comicsgate. Take care.